My favorite part of the Rumble was when Mercedes Moné, Okada, and MJF showed up. Okay, all trolling aside, yes, I watched this year's Royal Rumble. What a surprise, right? I think a lot of you will be shocked to find that I went into the show not wanting to hate it. I went in with an open mind. I've been hearing all the good things that people have been saying about WWE lately, so I said, oh, what the hell, let's give it a shot. It also helped that two of my favorite wrestlers in Cody and Punk were playing a huge role in the build to this. So before you WWE stans come into the comments section and start accusing me of hating WWE just to hate, I have two words for you. Guns up. Oh wait. No, I meant shut up. There's a reason why I've been keeping my WWE slander down to a minimum for the past few months. I heard the rave reviews about how this is apparently the best version of WWE in the past 20 years and maybe in their entire history. Yes, people are actually saying that. Besides, I can freely admit that the Royal Rumble is perhaps the greatest wrestling match stipulation ever created. As a kid, the Rumble is one of my favorite shows of the year. This should be the one show where you can jump in and just have some fun, right? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to take a page out of wrestling clickbait channels here. Except, this isn't clickbait, it's actually how I feel. So before I bore you all to death with all this exposition, let's talk about the 2024 Royal Rumble. These days, I really only watch like 2 or 3 WWE shows every year. The Rumble and Mania tend to be the big two that I consider watching if the card is right and if word of mouth is strong. In this case, word of mouth was at an all-time high. As I said just a moment ago, I can't go 1 second these days talking about AEW without someone coming into my comments section talking about how great WWE is and how that spells the death of AEW. So I'll admit I bought into the hype. Not the hype of AEW dying, of course, you'd have to be a fool to believe that. But the hype of WWE finally being good. You'd have to be a fool to believe that too, am I right? All jokes aside, I really wish I didn't hate this event, but all it did was remind me of why I don't watch WWE anymore. I feel like I said this last year after WrestleMania as well, because I did. To start off, we get this Pat McAfee making a huge entrance, and I'm just like, okay, look, I get it. I know who the guy is, but is there a reason why he's being treated like one of the biggest stars on the show? The fact that he got an entrance isn't the problem, it's the over-the-top nature of it all that instantly reminded me that I was out of my wrestling comfort zone. But anyway, the show opened with the Women's Royal Rumble, and I'll be 100% honest, this was my favorite part of the show. I'm not just gonna blindly rip this whole show apart. There are genuinely parts of it that I enjoyed, even if it was only like 1 or 2 things. The Women's Rumble was pretty good for the most part. Natalya entered at number 1 as the reliable veteran, and then Naomi made her return to WWE after almost 2 years gone at number 2. This was a cool moment, man. I'm of the belief that Naomi raised her stock during her short stint with TNA, so to see her rewarded with a big return was pretty cool. Speaking of TNA, we had a wild card early on in the Rumble when current TNA Women's Champion Jordynne Grace entered the Rumble, rocking the TNA belt and all. Nice little surprise, and I guess we'll see where that eventually goes. By the way, Triple H making fun of the Forbidden Door name was hilarious for all the wrong reasons. Yeah man, that's totally what I'd do if I was looking to sign New Japan free agents and wanting to expand into Japan one day. Anyway, the middle part of the Rumble was kinda just there until the last few entrants saw some big debuts and returns. Perhaps most notably, Jade Cargill. Pretty crazy that they almost entirely kept her entire AEW presentation just as they did with Cody. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because AEW has done this plenty too with guys like Edge and CM Punk. The funny part is when people say AEW doesn't create stars, considering Cody and now Jade have kept their entire AEW presentation. But anyway, arguing with those people is like arguing with a toddler. Jade looked like a star, and I'm happy that she's gonna kill it in WWE. I'll get into it later, but WWE's women's division is in a much better place for the future than their men's division. Even if I didn't recognize a lot of the names in this match due to me not watching the product regularly, I still thought the match was pretty good and people stood out. It wasn't one of the best Rumble matches I've ever seen, but it was good, and it was cool to see Bayley finally get a Rumble win. No nostalgia returns was a bit strange, but I can let it slide if they chose to focus on their current talent. Overall, this match was enjoyable, but you know what comes next. It was all downhill from this point on. I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to waste too much time on the 2 matches that were sandwiched in between the 2 Rumble matches. The Fatal 4-Way for the Undisputed Universal title featuring AJ Styles, Randy Orton, LA Knight, and of course the champion Roman Reigns was simply not good. It doesn't help that Roman's entrance alone takes like 20 minutes, and so by the time they're doing ring introductions, I'm already burnt out. But we all knew he wasn't losing here either. They all tried really hard to make this an epic, but nope. Also, for only watching 2 or so WWE shows a year, why does every Roman match I see end the same way? There's some interference usually involving one of the 3 Uso brothers, and then spear, pin, and win. My boy AJ taking the pin was a direct shot at me as well. Anyways, what else did we expect? Roman retained and we moved on to the US title match between Logan Paul and Kevin Owens. To put it bluntly, I don't care for Logan Paul as a person, but Kevin Owens is cool. So believe me when I say I tried to give this a shot for Owens alone, but I couldn't get into this either. I'm just gonna blame Logan Paul though. In all seriousness, I do think this was much better than the 4-way title match with Owens and Paul doing a few cool spots. And then of course, the dreaded WWE finish on a Big 4 pay-per-view. Kevin stole Paul's brass knuckles and hit him with them. And just as he was about to get the 3 counts, the ref saw the knuckles and DQ'd Owens. Therefore, Logan retained. I get why they did this, it's obviously leading to a rematch, but I don't have to like it. Just as I didn't like the bait and switch from Copeland versus Christian at the World's End pay-per-view. I'm not sure if this still happens often in WWE, but I was burnt out on this kind of finish many years ago. Also, why is there like a million ads between every match? Anyway, we got those matches out of the way. Now, on to the main event. The men's rumble was the main draw for me. I had seen the promo between Cody and Punk on the last Raw before the pay-per-view, and I'll be honest, I was sold. Credit where credit is due, Cody and Punk actually got me to buy in, and I wanted to see who would be the one to win between the two. After all, I did dream of this match happening for the very few months that both men were in AEW at the same time. So here I was, just having sat through 3 matches where I really only enjoyed one, and ready for the main event to save the show. Jay and Jimmy Uso kicking off the Rumble, I presume, was a reward to the longtime WWE viewer who watches every week and knows these guys' story. I can admit that it was a decent way to start. It became clear very early on though that I wasn't gonna know a majority of the people in this match. It didn't help that the crowd absolutely didn't care about like 90% of the guys in this match either. Hell, Andrade made his return to WWE when he entered at number 4, and I hate to say that the reaction wasn't as loud as I had hoped. Not including the Usos who started the whole match, the only guys in the first 15 entrants that got any sort of reaction were Nakamura, Dominic Mysterio, and of course Cody Rhodes. This match was littered with filler. And let me take a moment to say that WWE entrance music seems to get progressively worse with every passing year. When I watch the Rumble, I'm always reminded of how uninspired and unrecognizable everyone's music is. No wonder the crowd didn't pop for like 90% of these guys. Only like 5 of them have decent music to begin with. The second half of the Rumble was much stronger with the likes of Gunther, McIntyre, Punk, and Sami Zayn all entering. But even then, if you include the people that the audience cared about, there were only like 9 names, and I'm being generous because I'm including a washed Nakamura in those 9 names. Guys like Lashley, Balor, and Ricochet got little to no reaction, and it hurts to see. How do you silence 40,000 people all at once? You book a Royal Rumble with the 2024 WWE roster, that's how. I don't know, it just felt like a lot of this Rumble dragged. And of course, the big story was Punk making his WWE in-ring return after 10 years of being away. Yes, I know he had a couple of house show matches, but we don't count those. All people cared about was seeing Punk and Cody facing off. And after the likes of Drew, Sammy, and Gunther were eliminated, it came down to the final 2 of Punk and Cody. And man, again, I hate to say it, this was rough. Last year's Rumble featured a great final 2 between Gunther and Cody that lasted about 10 minutes. This tried to go for the same feeling, but the crowd just did not give a single fuck, dude. These are 2 of the 3 biggest stars in the company, and it was being treated like it was The Miz versus Bronson Reed. To be fair, Punk did look like he had a bit of ring rust. Yes, I'm defending Punk because I'm a fanboy, at least I can admit it. But yeah, this wasn't good. It got to the point where I was hoping one would just eliminate the other already. And it finally happened, like 30 minutes after I initially asked for it to happen. But that's besides the point. Cody last eliminated Punk to win the Royal Rumble, meaning yes, he's the first person since Stone Cold Steve Austin to win back-to-back Rumbles, which is crazy. Maybe now, Cody will finally get to finish his story. I don't know, man, I went in with very high expectations for this show that others had set for it, and I naively believed. If this is WWE at their best, then yeah, this show is truly not for me. This year's Royal Rumble just reminded me that WWE's roster really isn't as stacked as others made it out to be. As I said earlier, I think the women's division has a bright future, but WWE has a lot of work to do when it comes to the men's division. To their credit, they've built up Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes pretty well from what I've seen. but they need more if this Rumble is anything to go by. Also, every WWE show I watch features a crowd that acts like they were forced to attend. I get it, it's a family show, but man, does that make it horrible to watch to those watching at home. A dead crowd drags any show down, and that was the case here. And don't even get me started on that disaster of a press conference after the show. I'm sure clickbait channels will go after Triple H just as they did with Tony Khan, right? Anyway, despite some of my favorite wrestlers being featured prominently on this show, it was a slog to get through. Maybe we should calm down with the hyperbole when calling this the best version of WWE in history. I learned the hard way that a company's momentum can be gone in an instant. But hey, if you enjoyed the show, then that's cool too. WWE isn't for me, but that doesn't mean it isn't for you.